Welcome to today's live stream. We're really glad you've chosen to be with us. Just a few things before we get started. If you haven't already, please introduce yourself and let us know where you're tuning in from using the chat window. Now, the chat window is also a great place to interact with others who are on the stream today with you, so feel free to respond to anything that others post just by clicking the reply link underneath their comment. Lastly, we want to make sure that we help you with any questions you have. So you can drop a question in the chat window starting right now. We'll pause a couple of times on the stream to answer any questions that have been asked. So again, thanks for tuning in today, and we'll get started in just a bit. Well, welcome everybody to our Tuesday live stream, Accelerate Your Coaching and Consulting. We're so glad you're joining us, and I have my friend and colleague Chris with me today. So hello, Chris. How is Atlanta today?
We're doing good. It's not quite hot Atlanta today, which is nice. It usually is, but we kind of have a mild day today, which is refreshing. So you're in the middle. You're smack in the middle of the country, I'd say. How's Oklahoma City?
It's warm, but it's very pleasant. It's been a really cool summer here. I mean, cool as in neat and fun, but also cool as in not quite as hot. Usually we have a slew of 100 plus days, and so we haven't had that this year.
You know what's really interesting? We moved to Atlanta, so we were originally from Oklahoma too. We've lived out east about 20 years now, almost. But when I moved to Atlanta, that's one of the things you hear really quick is just this idea of hot Atlanta, and it certainly gets hot. I don't want to discount that. But when you've lived in Oklahoma, like it's not quite the same thing. I mean, you guys have like 30 days of 100-degree weather at times. Like there's nothing like that here. It's muggy, but outside of that, it's not Oklahoma.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, and yes. But there's a lot of perks about Oklahoma, and we always say, but the people are great. So that's what we're hanging our hats on.
That's right. I need to get some giant swag. I've got a giant vest that is a down vest that I'm not going to wear in August in Atlanta.
How about some giant flops? How about that?
I like that. That may actually work. So that's really good to be here.
Well, yeah, I agree. Everybody, if you're new with us, I know some people are just joining us for the very first time, and we're so very glad you're joining us. I think you'll love this community of amazing folks and people from all around the world, really, who join us on these live streams. So welcome. So tell us about today, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really excited. If you've been on Giant anytime at all, you may have noticed just a few things that are new that just started to roll out. A couple of weeks ago, we had a major product release. And one of the things post-release that we really discussed that we want to really improve is just offering more and more resources for our Ascend customers, people that are on the free Ascend platform that's really designed for you to be able to grow yourself as a leader. And so we're trying to up the quality and the frequency of the type of live streams that we're doing on the platform. We're not quite at daily yet. I think that we'll eventually get to that. But right now we have 3 or 4 new ones on from all different members of the HQ team, including our 2 co-founders, Jeremy and Steve, that you see a lot on the videos that are on the platform. So I encourage you, check that space out at the top of the Ascend page whenever you log in each day. Be looking for emails. We'll probably start sending those in the next week or so, just letting you know about when we're doing this. This one in particular that Tracy and I are going to be hosting is really going to be designed for those of you that might be more in a coaching or consulting seat. Now, that may be an internal coach. We have a lot of people that we do business with that are external coaches. They run their own coaching or consultancy, not necessarily just doing Giant. Some of them do, but a lot of them couple Giant on top of other content or other services that they provide. And we just thought, this would be a great opportunity for us just to pour into you specifically, because we know that is a fairly decent sized demographic of people that use our platform. And we're going to be spending some time every week just sharing some tips on how you can really accelerate your own coaching and consulting practice. We work with hundreds of people just like you all over the world on a weekly basis. And so hopefully this will be a valuable time for you each week. But before we do that, it's important to know who you're talking to today. So Tracy, I would love for you just to give a quick intro for you, and I'll do the same thing, and then we can jump into the content for today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be here. I'm what they call the director of implementation, which I think it just means she gets some stuff done. I think that's kind of what that means. So I love this team and being with these amazing folks here at the Giant headquarter team. And I enjoy a lot of things within the company. I get to do a lot. We have a product called Creator, and I get to work with creator clients. We'll tell you about that probably at a later date, but it's our white labeling product here. I get to help with these live streams, which is really, really neat. So lots of little dabbling here and there in different parts of the company. So.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement of the century. You got your hands in a few things when it comes to Giant. Tracy's just such a key part of our team, helping you to be able to get the most out of the platform, and she does that in many different ways. Myself, I'm Chris Ediger. I live in Atlanta. I'm director of partners. I get to work with, we have hundreds of coaches and consultants that are on the platform that I get to work with, as well as we have about 40 full-time consultants. And that's what I get to spend my days. In fact, I was on a live stream just this morning with our guides from all over the world, which is a lot of fun. And so we're both in the place of working with organizations and working with clients and customers to be able to leverage what Giant does and to leverage our technology and platform. We thought probably the best way to start out this new live stream would be just to tell you, how about on the very first Ascend live stream that we do for Accelerating Your Business, we just give you the not so secret formula. How about we just got to lay it out there, talk about why Giant works, because you're here, right? And rather than kind of holding that back behind closed doors, we can kind of give you a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, to show what Giant does and what Giant works. At Giant, we're really focused on culture, really focused on people. We're in the people business of helping unlock the potential of the people that you work with, that you manage, that you lead, as well as your customers and clients. And the reason that that's so important is because you know what it takes to be able to run a business. If you're running a coaching or consulting practice, you know all of the things that go into that. And a big part of what goes into that are things like, conversations about strategy and work on capital. Like, those are very important parts of running a business that you can't overlook. But what we find is the other parts of any kind of business, any kind of team, which are focused around the people side of things, usually don't get the time and energy and focus in most organizations that is warranted until there's a problem, right? Like you don't focus on necessarily building into people until there's a reason that you need to focus on building them. You don't spend time helping people learn how to do certain things until it's very apparent they can't do those things, right? A lot of times it's pain driven. And what we found is that when that pain comes in, whenever issues kind of overwhelm the rest of what you're doing from a people perspective, it really kind of culture trumps strategy every time, right? It doesn't matter what all the hard work that you put into strategy and focus and capital and all the other stuff that are part of running a successful team and a successful business. When there's people issues, when there's culture issues, it can completely sideline your business and your team. And so what we found is this. We found that it starts at a root level. A lot of people like to talk about culture like it's this thing. Like I can create a culture for our organization. A lot of times what they mean by that is we're going to put a ping pong table in the break room. We're going to put in some perks. And while that may as well be able to build some camaraderie and relationship, which adds to culture, there's very little you can do at a top end of an organization to build in culture. It really starts at the individual level, right? And what we found is that if people aren't on the same page, if they're not using the same vocabulary, then there's going to be problems. We happen to teach language and tools within visual. So this is an example of one of our tools, because we live in a visual society, right? We don't, if I just sat here and did a webinar where you saw my face with no slides, like I would never do that to you. But, that's hard for 30 minutes to really be able to take away depth when you're just listening to my voice. Visuals help us to understand. They help us to really be able to share and work amongst others and be able to remember it so you can use it with your teams. And so we always teach vocabulary within the context of the visual tools. And what that does is it creates objective, common language. And those are two really important words, because a lot of times when you're talking about cultural matters, it winds up being very subjective, right? You have one person that's reacting to a situation that somebody else is reacting to a completely different way because they're bringing it in. And if you don't have common vocabulary and common tools, what winds up happening is you just kind of scurry and you start talking about things in a sideways way that's not objective. We want to give you tools that allow you to have important, sometimes weighty conversations in a way that isn't as subjective, that it's people can actually listen to it and do something about it without being caught up in the emotions of the moment. And then common is really important too, right? Because it does no good for you as a team leader, let's say, to go away to a conference, to read a book, to listen to a podcast, to watch a video, and then somehow, because you understand something, doesn't necessarily mean that the team is going to be able to take advantage of it. That only happens when everybody understands what we're talking about. So we create objective common language, and what that does is it starts to foster and facilitate productive conversation and communication, which leads to collaboration. And what that does is that in turn builds healthy cultures that we would say are invincible, that will withstand the test of time, that will withstand the pressure and the waves of crazy seasons like COVID-19, right? We want you to have a healthy team, and we want you as a coaching consultant to be able to help your clients to have invincible, healthy, strong teams that's built on that foundation. Now, I'll tell you how we do that. We believe in scalable people development. And so everything that I'm working on with clients, I'm doing one of two things. So the left side of this, I'm trying to teach leadership language. I'm trying to give them some objective common language. You stick around. If you come back next Tuesday and the weeks following, you're going to hear some of that language, some of those tools. If you're watching the videos on Ascend, you'll hear things about support and challenge and dominate and protect and liberate and this, circles of influence and words like pioneer and creative and connector, and all that is just vocabulary that we're teaching so that when I'm talking and you're talking, we both know what we're talking about so that we can actually affect change. And we do that again with visual tools. Now, every single piece of content, we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of content on the platform right now. And I'm willing to make this as a guarantee. Any piece of content that you watch on Ascend is going to help you do one or both of these two things on the right side of this. It's either or going to help you be the best potential leader that you possibly could be. We want you to be as healthy as possible because you are multiplying into the people around you, right? Your clients are multiplying into the teams around you. They're having an influence whether they know it or not. You're either going to be a good, positive influence or you're going to be a negative influence. You're either going to be multiplying health or multiplying unhealth. But it's really important that you start with you first. So we always want people to really dive in and own it for themselves, to understand, to know, and lead themselves first. Once they do that, then we turn our attention to the right side, which is that leadership is inherently not about you. Leadership in its core principle of what it is really about other people. And so a lot of what you'll see on the platform, you'll see this metaphor of a lot of mountains and mountain climbing. You can even see that with some of the tools in this particular visual. We believe in that because we love the idea of the Sherpa. If you've ever heard of Sherpas, they're the people that live on the mountain in Lake Nepal that help people climb Mount Everest. We see the pictures of the victory pose, right? The guy that's at the top of the mountain that, if I'm them, I would want a picture taken as well. There's no fault for that. I will never climb Mount Everest if I ever did. I would want a victory pose at the top too. But the interesting thing is that we pay attention to the person of the picture that's being taken, but we never think about the person that took the picture. We never think about the fact that that person that's in the victory pose, there's no way that they're going to climb Mount Everest on their own. Nobody climbs Mount Everest by themselves. What they do is they partner with a Sherpa. A Sherpa is an indigenous people group that lives in Nepal. They were born on the mountain. They were raised on the mountain. They are acclimated to the higher altitudes and temperatures. They know the way to go to the summit. And they know the way not just for their own benefit. They've been there multiple times, but they know it in a way that actually helps other people come with them. And so they've devoted their life to helping other people to climb the mountain, so to speak, to attain the high levels. That's such a beautiful picture of leadership, right? Because you have to be healthy. You have to be strong enough to be able to climb the mountain yourself. You have to be able to understand how to attain some of those higher levels of leadership. But you're doing it not just for you. You're doing it so that you can come back and bring other people with you. That health and multiplication, both of those are key. And every single piece of content that you'll look at on this platform is going to help you do one or both of those well, because that's who we are. This is Giant's secret formula that's not so secret, that we create common leadership language and we teach it in visual tools in a way that helps you to be as healthy as possible, and then teaches you how to multiply that into the other people around you. That's who we are. That's what we're going to talk about when we get on here, is how do you leverage our content? How do you leverage our assets and our tools and technology to be able to do that very thing with your clients as well? So I would love to just pause and take some questions. If you haven't asked already, please drop them into the chat, and we would love just to chat for a little bit. Yeah, anything that's come through, Tracy?
I just asked this one. There's a question coming that says, what about the person who says, yeah, I'm not really into that. I just come to work to do my job, and I'm really not interested in all of that. What would you say to them?
Yeah. So number one, I'm not sure why you're working with them if that's going to be their attitude. But chances are that I coach clients. So all of our core team members have their own clientele as well. And I can tell you that the only time I've ever bumped into a place where I'm trying to work with someone professionally that has that kind of attitude is if maybe they are doing it because it's mandatory. Like someone else had said, you're going to be coached by Chris or you're not going to work here anymore. And still then I would hope that they would want to be doing it. But the truth is you can't make anybody do anything. Every single person I coached someone earlier today. I'm about to coach someone as soon as we hop off of this. And what I tell them almost every time is, look, what we talk about here is really, really important. What I teach you is really, really important. All the hard work that we're putting on in these calls. And I would say the same thing for you, like being on this call, being on this live stream, that's really, really, that's you investing in your leadership. But at the end of the day, I can't control what happens when you hang up. I can't control what you do when you leave here. And so there needs to be ownership on the side of the person that you're working with, or you're just going to be frustrated. They're going to be frustrated as well. Hopefully the people that you're working with, there's some kind of impetus behind them actually engaging with you. Or if there's not, that's a conversation you need to have with whoever brought you in to make sure that that there is a little bit of initiative that's happening.
Mm-hmm. And there's another question coming in from Amy. She says, this sounds really great, but it also sounds like a lot of work. So I'm not sure I can fit it into my already hectic schedule. What would you say to Amy on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I get that. Like we've been in the leadership space for decades, and I know traditional leadership development, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to sign up for a workshop or go to an event or read a book, or how much is this going to take? We believe in making it accessible for you, easy to do, accessible for the people that you work with, and making it where you can do it wherever you are. And so what you'll find, if you haven't had a lot of time to explore Giant, everything that you see in here, you're not going to find a lot of videos that are longer than 7 to 10 minutes. Those are probably going to be most of the longer videos. There's a couple long ones. Most videos are under 10 minutes. Most of them are 5 minutes or less, because we want to create and teach things that are bite-sized, because we know you've got a bazillion other things that you're trying to do. Even when it comes to, so I'll talk about our guide certification program that I work with closely. When I'm working with a certified coach or a consultant to go through and learn our resources, there's some of the learning that does take time, right? Anything that you learn at any kind of depth, it takes a little bit of time to do it. but it's never meant to be overwhelming. And certainly anything that you find on Giant, including some of the leadership stuff that's available, like in Invincible, it's going to be max 30 minutes a week. I mean, it's not really designed to be something that overwhelms you. I would rather spend shorter amounts of time learning the content, and then you spend most of the actual time implementing it, actually doing it with the people that are on your teams and putting it into practice. So
that's great. Another question is, do you recommend this is something that we try to get down on a personal transformative level before we start to work and coach with our teams, or can you do these two things together?
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think let's talk ideal and let's talk reality, right? Ideal would be absolutely like, well, I think we would all strive to say, I want to make sure I'm practicing what I preach, so to speak, right? I want to make sure I'm not telling someone to do something that I'm not willing to do. In Giant, certainly, and Tracy can attest to this, like we try to live this out. Like we would never want to put a video, for instance, on the platform that we're not trying to live out ourselves. So I think that's always an ideal. That's always something that you should strive to do. Now, in reality, can you always do everything and do exactly the same kind of work that you're asking someone else? Maybe you're coaching someone in your practice or consulting with a team or an organization that just really, like, they can't even wait on you. Like they needed this stuff yesterday. They needed your help a week or a month ago or a year ago. Like you can't slow down too much to be able to serve them the best way possible. But if you can, yeah, absolutely. I would invite you, even if you're using this platform to coach other people, take the time to do it. A good example of that, by the way, Invincible is one of the products. You can actually try it out for free if you click that top left menu where it says Ascend. Just click on Invincible and you can do a short trial, a couple of weeks. That's really designed for teams and organizations. One of the things that's incorporated into that is something we call Sherpa training. Again, using the metaphor of the people that are helping other people grow. It is a 50-week curriculum. It's designed to be a year-long, 1 session per week curriculum. It only takes 20 to 30 minutes, maybe a week, of your time to invest. I lead 4 coaching groups right now where I'm leveraging that as the core competency, the core content. So what happens is people pay the fee to be on Giant, but then they also pay me in addition to that for my coaching services. And in that case, I just make sure that I've watched the videos and spent some time listening to it before we report back. So if I'm telling my coaching group, hey, I want you to watch this session and this session before our next call in 2 weeks, I just want to make sure that I've had time to watch the videos before then. I may not be doing it like way ahead of everybody. So as much as you can, go in there and watch any videos that help you. Absolutely invest in yourself. But don't feel like you can't help somebody with something if you haven't had time to do all of the work yourself. Hopefully that helps.
No, that's great. So what would you tell somebody who's just listening and they're thinking, interesting, you perked my interest. What do I do?
Yeah. So I would say click around if you haven't already. I don't, we have some people that have been on Giant for years, and we have some people that signed up this week. So I don't know where you're at. If you haven't had a chance to explore the platform, that's probably going to be the best thing to do, is just click on that Ascend, that homepage that you see, go through, do the 5 voices assessment, start watching some of the videos, start learning. That does 2 things. It's going to help you for wherever you're at, whatever relationships, personal, professional, anything. But it's also going to give you a glimpse into who we are. It's going to let you see us up close and see some of our content and tools. If you're a coach or a consultant and you're really interested to see, okay, well, what does Giant have to offer for coaches and consultants, those hundreds of people, Chris, that you said you work with, I'll actually give you the best thing you can do is probably go to the Giant website. It's going to look like that. So giantworldwide.com/accelerate. Go through there. You can learn a little bit more about our coaching certification process, and then click that schedule info call. You'll be able to talk to one of our team members. It's literally no pressure. We're not trying to, sell you something you don't need, but we'll absolutely be able to answer questions. And if that's something that, would fit your business and be able to help you to be able to impact your leaders, the teams and businesses that you work with, we would love to have you as a part of the community and the program. That's going to be probably the best go-to spot for anybody that's a coach or a consultant.
Great. Yeah,
I know
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know we saw the few minutes. If you guys have any other questions, I'm happy to answer anything. I know this is a little bit more of a broad stroke as we're starting out, but if you have any questions, feel free to drop those into the chat. What were you saying, Tracy?
I was just going to say, back to can we start consulting or guiding before we've got it all together? I ponder this a lot just in my own life, but we talk about our visual tools that you were speaking about and how they're a big mirror that you put in front of you, and it's kind of like broccoli in your teeth because you've got to have somebody telling you things about yourself that you may not see. And so I think for all of us, you don't ever arrive, right? You never get so good at leadership and developing yourself that you can go, okay, now I'm ready. It's that one little opening at a time of learning things. And so, yeah, I wouldn't wait to get it all together because that day may never happen. And we can attest to that, right, Chris, is that we work in this environment every day. We know that, excuse me, the tools in and out, forwards and backwards, and yet every day you're confronted with your own self. And so, just
and as you should be. Like I hope you guys never get to a point in your business or your practice where you feel like you don't have anything to learn. I mean, I think that's a great bookend to talk about it, Tracy. It's like on one end, you don't want to do nothing, right? Like that's not helpful because then you're not working on yourself to be able to help lead other people better. But you don't want to like own this, like you've got to arrive. I actually had somebody, I can't remember the context. I think it was a coach or someone I'm coaching that said, "Oh, I'm gonna go out and I'm trying to watch everything on the platform." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like more power to you." Like I haven't done that. I'm not even sure I could. There's so much content. So don't feel like you have to do it all or get all the way through something. Our guide process is a great example. Like one of our core competencies and core products is 5 voices. It's foundational, personality, talks about communication, collaboration. It's really, really good. It takes you maybe 8 weeks to go through the entire certification to go like knee deep, become an expert in it. We don't even make you wait until you're finished with session 8 before you actually start practicing it. Like what we say is make sure you know what you're talking about. So don't teach session 1 until you've really gone through session 1 and understand it. But don't feel like you have to like go through the entire process before you can start doing it. And that's important too. I know a lot of people are kind of new to coaching and consulting because of the season that we're in, and maybe you've been forced into this, or maybe this is something that you've been wanting to do, or it's been a side thing that's now becoming a full-time thing. Like I get that, and there's a reality to saying I can't just hit pause on my livelihood for 2 months to learn this. I really need to do something that's going to generate revenue. And we've tried to build the process in a way that you can learn it really well while also being able to open up some revenue opportunities as soon as possible. So,
great.
All right, last call for questions before we hop off.
I don't see any other questions that have come through the chat, so I think we're good. I do want to tell everyone that when we get off of the live stream, we actually, you'll be able to still chat. So if you think of something there at the end and we're already off, you can continue to add comments there, and we'll reach out and try and answer those for you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let me kind of put out the pitch for next week. So again, this is just our first call. And we wanted to do kind of a good introduction of us and kind of who Giant is and how we do this. Hopefully it's been helpful, insightful for you guys. We'll be back here next Thursday for 30 minutes starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. We would love to have you join us back just to give you a little bit of a teaser into what we're going to be talking about next week. Giant is really big about these 2 phrases. We've just found the highest success rate, both in terms of impact on our clients, as well as just success financially and as a business in a sweet spot between what we call high tech and high touch. So we're going to talk about what we mean by that a little bit and why we feel like that's a great model for you in your own business, regardless of whether you do Giant or not. It's just something you really need to contemplate, especially in the world that we now find ourselves in with so many people working remotely. If you haven't figured that out yet, you've got to figure out how to really leverage technology to its finest. But we all know that technology by itself isn't going to be enough for our clients. It really is. There's a high touch element. So how do you balance? So that's what we're going to be talking about next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Hope you guys can come back and join us for that as well. Anything else, Tracy, before we head out?
I don't think so. I guess I was just thinking, if you all are watching, you're thinking, oh, this would be so good for, and you're thinking of a colleague or a friend or your husband or wife or whatever, and you think they'd really enjoy this. Let them know about it. We'd love to have have them on as well as you. So thanks so much for joining us today and for taking your time out. I know your time is very valuable. So again, we're gonna go off, but if you have some more comments, you feel free and chat as long as you want. We'll be watching those and responding. Thanks so
Great.
much, Chris. Appreciate
See you
you.
guys. See you guys next week.
All right. Bye-bye.